Chapel, and I want to talk about a subject that is near and dear to many people's hearts: how to save money on your wedding. This is big because the average wedding in Denver right now is about $21,000. That's for everything, including the honeymoon and everything, from the beginning to the end. That's a lot of money for a lot of people. And when you're thinking of a budget, you may be thinking of $10,000 total for everything, maybe $5,000 total for everything. And when you get down to something like $5,000, you're at 1/4 of the normal size of a wedding in terms of a budget. That can be challenging, but it's not impossible. And I want to give you some ideas about how to make that possible for you on your wedding. First, I think it's important not for you to abandon your dreams. If you've been thinking for years that someday you're going to have a wedding, you want it to be beautiful, there's certain things that are really special and really important to you. You want it to be in a beautiful setting, the ceremony to be lovely, the food to be good, for everybody to have fun and to really enjoy the party afterwards. All these things are really important, so really kind of first of all sit down and get a sense, what is my dream for my wedding? What do I really want, where I don't want to give it all up? Because I could just tell you right now, if you want to save money on a wedding, well, go down to the county clerk's office and for $30 you can sign a piece of paper and you're married. So that's the most budget wedding you can do. And you don't need anything else, except that we do need these things, for emotional reasons, for spiritual reasons, for reasons of family, and to create family unity and to create a very special sense of the bond that has grown of love between the two of you. So I want you to really think about what you want the most, and I'm going to make an assumption that you do want it to be a beautiful wedding, and kind of go from there, so that you can not abandon the dream wedding, but you can abandon the high price tag that oftentimes comes along with that. I'd like it to be fun and memorable for you. Now, here are the cost factors that are the most important for you to think about. First of all is the number of guests you have. Every guest is going to cost you more money. Secondly, the venue itself. What location will the wedding take place? Will the reception take place? 2 different places, 1 place? Food is the next one, and of course beverages, especially alcoholic beverages. So we think of those as like the big 4 we're going to talk about first. So first let's talk about the number of guests. Now, there may be limits to how much you can trim your guest list, and I recognize that. Some people have very, very big families, and you don't want to say to an aunt that's been with you in part of your life, no, I'm sorry, we're doing this on the cheap and you can't come. So I think part of your dream is to have the people you most love to be there, for sure. But let's just say that, you put together a guest list and it's over 200 people. That's so many people you can't even say hello to everybody. So here at Foothills Chapel, we have a facility that holds up to 200 people. Now, one of the things that people have done, here at Foothills Chapel, for example, we have a facility that holds 200, like I said. We also have a banquet hall that holds 80 people. And believe it or not, one of the things that people have done, and significant numbers of them have done this now, you've got the big chapel up here. Everybody's invited to that. You have your family, you have your close friends, you have your good work buddies, and so everybody gets to see you get married. And then you have a formal reception downstairs for those 80 people. And what's nice about that is that that's where your family is. That's where your very, very closest lifelong friends will be there for that. And you can actually say hello to all those. So think about that. On a human scale, how many people can you actually socialize with at one time? So what happens is that the formal reception for about 80 people happens there. And for everybody else, you have another reception, maybe on the Sunday afternoon after the wedding or something like that. This can take place at a condo clubhouse, at a park with a pavilion of some kind, with some covered picnic tables. People can be dressed in their jeans and t-shirts. People can, you can just play boom boxes and have a good time and have a keg of beer and just really enjoy yourselves. And you can kick back with your more casual friends and enjoy a very, very casual reception the next day. You get to say hi to a whole bunch more people, and you don't have to cost to yourself a huge amount of money for each item of food that you have to serve for them as well. The next thing I want to talk about is the venue. There's a huge range of prices in venues themselves, just the rental cost of a venue. And the venue is not just the cost of the rental of the venue itself, it's the tail that wags the dog for all of your other expenses. What I mean by that is that some places, here at Foothills Chapel is one example, you can also get into community centers and condo clubhouses and other venues like that, where you can bring your own food and drink, and there's policies there which make it easier for you to control costs, and that's important. But the cost of renting a venue can be anywhere from $1,000 or less on up to, oh my goodness, I don't know, I think $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 just for the rental of the place. But the policies and the restrictions that are put onto you are going to be different in every place. Be sure when you're talking to the venue, when you get the estimate, you say, are there any other costs? Like on your wedding day, would you like it if you got suddenly surprised with a $150 cake cutting charge or $5 corkage fee for every bottle of wine that gets opened? These are things that happen at a lot of venues. So you need to say, are there any other costs that I could possibly have to pay? And make sure that all of them are completely and fully itemized so that you have a chance to really understand what the actual cost of that particular venue is. So once you get your venue into place, and of course if you've got a big wedding, again, you have to have a big venue. A big venue has a big mortgage, it has a big utility bill, it has big tax bills, it has big insurance bills. You get the point. And so as a result of that, the larger venues, they have to charge quite a bit more. Here at Foothills Chapel, we charge under $1,000, and for most weddings, even weddings and receptions, can be in the $1,000 to $1,400 range. So our cost on the venue itself is very, very low compared to many other places, as long as you can fit into this place, which we've talked about before. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about as well is sometimes people think they can save money by having a wedding at home. The reality of that can be shocking, because for one thing, let's say you've got a pretty big wedding, you've got a nice backyard in your aunt's house or something like that, but oh, what about the weather? Then you have to spend $800 to rent a tent. You have to spend $200 to rent the candles and other supplies in an archway. And then suddenly your aunt decides, oh, I don't like the way the lawn looks back here, and she starts re-landscaping her backyard for $10,000. I've seen this, believe me. I've had many grooms come up to me and say, you know, I wish I just had the wedding at Foothills Chapel, because this has cost 3 or 4 times more for this venue, my own backyard, than it would have cost us to be here at Foothills Chapel and banquet room. So keep that in mind. Be very, very aware of those kinds of hidden costs that are involved in a home wedding. And the other thing too is whoever's place it is, be sure that you hire professional cleaners afterwards. So now let's talk about food, because most venues will require you, if you're having a reception there, to use their food, their caterers. And catering typically $45 to $95 per person. And remember that we also have to deal with the fact that there are service charges and gratuities. These are separate things. Those add up to about 30% of the list cost. So if they say $39.95 for a meal, add 30% of that just for the tip and for the service charge on average. Be sure to make sure the taxes are covered in terms of your estimates as well. And you know, it's a nice idea to have a few snacks ahead of time for people while they're waiting for you to finish your pictures. Great idea, but it is an expense to deal with as well. If you're allowed to bring your own food, it's not a very high expense. There are places, Foothills Chapel and Banquet Room does allow you to bring your own food. We have a great caterer, by the way. A lot of people enjoy using the food guy and other caterers we have. However, if you want to bring your own food, at a restaurant, you can go to many restaurants, and for somewhere between $12 and $20 a person, you can have a wonderful buffet of, say, Mexican food or Italian food. I mean, who doesn't like Italian food? It's more work on the part of your family. You would have to count on really good family members, maybe 6 of them, to work pretty hard to make sure that all the food is kept up and kept fresh, and that everything that's needed takes place. The next big expense, then, is alcoholic beverages. And if you have a bar at a hotel or another venue where they have a liquor license, expect to pay somewhere between $6 and $12 per drink. Some places even clear the tables of drinks that haven't been drunk. So people will go out and have a dance and come back, and suddenly they'll discover that their table's been cleared, and that beer that was only 1/3 consumed is gone, and they have to go back to the bar and get another one. So that builds up the bar tab very quickly. A place that allows you to bring your own alcoholic beverages, you save about 80% of the bar tab, as you can here at Foothills Chapel, the banquet room. For example, here at Foothills Chapel or other locations, you know, we don't have a liquor license, so the responsibility goes on to you to make sure that no one drinks and drives. If anybody does, they're actually legally liable, just like a party at your own home. And that's not something that we or any other venue can do anything about. So what you want to do is make sure you have a reliable person who's not much into drinking, that just serves one drink at a time and makes sure that nobody gets too drunk to drive safely. That's very important with that. So every time you save money, you'll find that it takes more energy we can help you so you have a realistic idea of how much more energy will be required. Now, there are other expenses to think about. Your wedding dress, now, by now it may be too late for you to even think about that. The average wedding dress, I think, is in the range of about $2,000. Used wedding dress stores pop up sometimes. They usually don't last very long because I've seen several go out of business in Denver in the last few years. So if one exists and you want to look at used wedding dresses, I'd say, definitely take a look. But you might also want to go on the internet and save a lot of money on a used wedding dress as well. For second weddings, I find a lot of people here at Foothills Chapel, they might have 30 or 50 people, their kids and a few close family members. It's a wonderful thing to get a beautiful ivory dress that is usable for other things like cocktail parties, and if you want to go out to see Phantom of the Opera downtown, those kinds of things. For those kinds of wonderful events, very special events, you could bring it out again and not necessarily just have it be the wedding dress only. So you can find multifunctional dresses, and now you have a beautiful dress for $300 or $400 that you can actually use at other times. I won't talk much about rings. There's a huge price range on rings, and by now you probably already have those. And then the last thing I do want to mention too is about honeymoons. Keep in mind that the average couple loses about $800 gambling in Las Vegas or Reno. So put that into your budget if you're going to be going to those places. It's actually a lot more expensive than it appears to be to go to those places. If you're going to a beach honeymoon, if you can build up frequent flyer miles, or maybe as a wedding gift somebody can give you some frequent flyer miles, that's a big part of the expense. And then once you get to fly to a location, if you're doing a beach wedding or something like that, maybe there are people in your circle of friends and family who are fractional ownership people, and they don't have time to use their 2 weeks of a condo in Belize or wherever their place may be. And so as a result of that, you could probably get it for the cost of the cleaning, and that could be for like $200 for a week, and I've seen people do that. The last thing, though, is don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Professional photographers are usually $1,600 to $4,000. That doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't have a professional photographer. We have a photographer we can recommend who's about half the lowest end of that cost, maybe $600, $800, and can do a really good job for you. This is a day you want to remember for the rest of your life, so be aware of that. 30 years from now, I think you might really enjoy watching a video of some kind. So try to get a videographer, even if you can't afford one of the $2,000 videographers. Get something so that you have something to look at 30 years from now, and you'll really, really be glad you did. Because you have friends and family who will pass away, who will move to California or to foreign countries, and it'll just be so sweet to see them again. Put all these ideas together with the right venue, and you can have a tremendous wedding. Beautiful, memorable, heartfelt, a lot of fun for a fraction of the cost of the average wedding. Here at Foothills Chapel, 1/4 of the average cost. We can do all the stuff that I was talking about here, in general, and get you down to a $5,000 wedding budget that is absolutely exquisite. Thank you very much for watching, and good luck with your wedding plans.